yes I believe Rick Santorum is our man.
We'd like to start out with a big welcome to everybody tonight. Thank you for coming out, for supporting the Santorum campaign, the Republican Party, and the whole electoral process. That's what we're really about here tonight, is getting everybody engaged to participate. We're going to start off tonight with the national anthem, so we'd like to ask everyone to rise and remove your hats and participate in the national anthem. Okay, if I can get everybody to join me with a Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll have an invocation and get started with our events for tonight. Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And our invocation.
Good evening. I am Tom Chop, the chaplain at the local hospital. Let us unite our hearts and our voices in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. God of liberty, God of freedom, we, your people, gather this evening to celebrate all of our national blessings and freedoms and privileges that we have. Among those privileges is the opportunity to participate in the primary election of our future presidential candidate. We pray that you motivate each and every one of us to be active in this election process, encouraging our friends, neighbors, and relatives to vote during the primary and especially this coming November. Hear our prayers on behalf of our government. Continue to give them your wisdom and blessing. Especially hear our prayers for Rick Santorum as he continues his presidential candidate journey. We pray to the White House according to your will. Lord, we ask that you continue to bless his family, watch over them, and strengthen them during these days of the campaign. Send your guardian angels with him and all of his party as they journey from one city to another. Hear our prayers in the name and the author of freedom and liberty, Christ Jesus our Lord. Amen.
You'll catch that? Well, I'll tell you, it's with great pleasure I get to introduce our first guest tonight. We've got the privilege of being honored with the guest of Frank Shakespeare. Frank was ambassador during the Reagan administration for both Portugal and the Vatican. He's the former chairman of the board or president of CBS Television and a board member of the Heritage Foundation. would you join me in a warm welcome for Ambassador Frank Shakespeare?
Thank you. Well, I'm going to be very brief. I don't know exactly why all of you are here. I am here almost by an accident because I've only been in Wisconsin a year and a half, and before that I was in things around the world. And I wasn't quite sure, and I heard about this man, Rick Santorum, and then I thought I would like to go to a place where he's going to be. And it's for that simplest of all reasons that I am here. And let me skip right to the bottom line. I've talked to people, to some of you. I've said my prayers because I think that we desperately in the United States of America need a leader that can be a world leader that we do not have now. And I think Santorum might just possibly be it. It's wonderful to see you all here, and in my new but very concerned judgment, Rick Santorum is a class act. You're going to hear 2 or 3 other people who speak to you briefly. I have no idea what they're going to say. I am to introduce the next person. The next person is one of your state representatives from the 45th Assembly District, that's Beloit and Clinton, and her name is Amy Loudenbach. And I've just been chatting with her backstage, and for 2 reasons, I have a comment to make about her. One comment is that she's here to say something about Rick Santorum. The second is I had 3 to 4 minutes backstage with her for the first time I've ever talked to a state representatives. Where do you get them? Amy Loudenbach is a class act. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for coming out today. This is so exciting for Wisconsin and for Rock County. I know that we felt like this election has been a never-ending season for us here in Wisconsin, but this is the real deal. This Tuesday is a deciding and defining moment in Wisconsin and our chance to participate in the national electoral process. And I'm so excited to get out and vote myself, and I really, really hope that we see the turnout numbers like we've never seen before in Wisconsin, because the world is watching us and the United States is watching us, and this is such a critical time in our state. And I know for all the candidates that are running right now, when I ran in 2010, I won my primary by 14 votes. And I will never, ever forget that. The night before, the last doors, the darkness falling, and my walk lists, and trying to get a few more constituent contacts in. And these candidates, they're so busy. They are working on the issues. They are trying to raise money. They're working the media, and they're meeting people. And if Senator Santorum is anything like me, the favorite part of, for the campaign, for me, the favorite part of my campaign was getting out and meeting voters face to face and really listening to what was on their hearts and what was important to them, and to really convey what kind of solutions and what kind of challenges we were going to be able to address while we were serving as your representative, whether it's for the Assembly or for the Senate or for governor or for the President of the United States. If you're not in touch with the people that you represent, you're not going to be able to do your job well. Because we have a lot of really smart people serving and a lot of great ideas, but to have that cohesive connection with the people that you serve is really important. And it's been really fun to watch Senator Santorum's campaign and really see him, you know, kind of on the sidelines in some of the debates and watching everyone else kind of talk over one another. And you can tell he's listening, and you can tell he really is trying to see where the other candidates come from and trying to define yourself. And that's what the candidates are doing right now. They're trying to show you, I mean, a definite, consistent conservative, history of serving, obviously knows a lot about the political process, but what voters want to know is what makes you different? What's going to make you better? What is going to make you be able to beat Barack Obama in November and bring our country back to where it belongs? And so it is my hope that the man that is here tonight is going to be able to share his message with all of us so that we can really make our decisions and make an informed decision. And I strongly encourage all of you not only to get out and vote next Tuesday, but make a few phone calls, take a friend to the polls, and make your voice heard. So thank you very much.
Do you want to come back up?
I was planning to introduce Representative Joe Nylons. Also, I got so excited there. Representative Nylons and I have served together since 2010. Joe, similar to Senator Santorum, I mean, was kind of, you know, had a lot of candidates in a primary, worked his way up, and really did a lot of grassroots work, and it's been a pleasure serving with him. We both serve on the Assembly Committee on Jobs, Small Business, and the Economy, and we also serve on the Committee on Public Health and Public Safety, and Joe also serves on the Transportation Committee. He is a lifelong Wisconsin resident, or Janesville resident, and he and his wife Nancy and their 2 children live in Janesville, and I really enjoy serving with Joe and look forward to hearing him speak.
Thanks, Amy. Thank you, Amy, on the wonderful introduction. First of all, the senator's running a little late, so we'll talk here until he gets here. I appreciate you all coming out tonight to see Senator Santorum in his bid for president. You know, he's shown himself as a true conservative, and to some people, they think that's bad, but you know, we've got to stand by our conservative values, and we got to push our conservative values to swing this country back over to the right spot where it should be. Not the progressive left, but the center, right, and conservative. Well, I have the pleasure tonight introducing Evan Wynn. And Evan has lived a storied life before he began his political career. He has served in the armed forces, but not just one branch. He served in 2. He first served with the U.S. Marines, then he served with the United States Army, jumping out of planes. How crazy is that? He's crazy too. Before his combat duty in Madison, he had assignments including combat tour in Iraq with the Joint Task Force 134. Evan has earned numerous awards while in the military, including the Legion of Merit, the Bronze Star Medal, and as a paratrooper, he earned the U.S. Army Paratroopers Badge and the Australian Paratroopers Badge. Evan currently represents the 43rd Assembly, which is Whitewater and around the city of Janesville. And he is a vice chair of the Veterans Committee, vice chair of Veterans and Military Affairs Committee, a member of the University of College Committee and Education Committee. Evan is nonstop. He is a 1st District Commander of the VFW. He is also a member of the American Legion, the 82nd Airborne Division Association, and the Disabled American Veterans. I feel like I'm introducing Senator Santorum, but it's just Evan Wynn. He is the past president of the Whitewater Breakfast Kiwanis. He's a member of the Faith Community Church of Fort Atkinson. He has been happily married for 21 years to Annette, and they have 1 daughter, Michelle. He is a true friend of mine, Evan Wynn. Evan? There's one thing more I got to say about Evan. When we were up there during the protest, and you guys all saw it on the TVs down here. One day, I was leaving the Capitol, and I said, hey, Evan, you want to walk out together? And Evan says, sure. So you would think Evan would want to walk out the quiet door, but no. Evan picks the crowded door where all the union protesters were. So we walk out, Evan walks out first, I walk out, I get called scab by a bunch of people I worked with at General Motors. And Evan just loved it because he loves to face adversity. And that's the one thing I admire about him, and I enjoy working with Evan.
Thanks, Joe. Well, Joe will tell you it's because I love adversity, but my wife will tell you it's because I landed once too many times on my head jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. Well, it's really an honor to be here today and to not only introduce the next speaker, which I'll get to in a moment, but to speak on behalf of Senator Rick Santorum. He's a man that has had a strong voice for conservative principles, for principles such as small government, less spending, and a strong national defense. In fact, a lot of people might not know this, but he was the author of the 1996 Welfare Reform Act, one of the most successful pieces of legislation which allowed more people to get off of welfare and get to work. And Senator Santorum doesn't focus on the 1% of the deficit. He likes to face 100% of the deficit and fight to get rid of it. Senator Santorum is a true conservative. In fact, during his term as a senator during the first 4 years of President Bush's term in office, he received an A rating all 4 years, the only senator to receive an A rating from the National Taxpayers Union. Senator Santorum has not only fought for a balanced budget, but he's also fought for the military. And I can tell you, as a person that was in the 82nd Airborne Division during his term as a senator on the Senate Armed Services Committee, I was glad that he was there because he fought to change the military from a Cold War, bulky, slow maneuvering force to its current day flexible, adaptable force where we can go anywhere in the world to defend our country. But Senator Santorum, besides those great accomplishments, is a strong believer in local priorities, in that letting local communities decide for themselves and not some bureaucrat in Washington. Senator Santorum is also a strong defender of pro-life issues. And not only while he's fighting for pro-life issues, he's also out there writing legislation as a senator to protect children from internet predators. He's also been fighting for our Second Amendment rights, and that's why the NRA gave him an A+ rating. But out of all of his accomplishments, I think the one that he is most proud of is being a father and a husband. And on that note, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Senator Glenn Grothman, the senator from West Bend. He was elected to the Assembly in 1993, and then to the Senate, where he currently serves as a state senator in 2004. And I think for most of you, he needs no further introduction. Senator Grothman.
Thank you, Evan. Well, this election reminds me a lot of the first time I voted in 1976. The country's in a lot of trouble, okay? We have three big problems. We've got a huge debt problem. 40% of what the federal government spends is borrowed. And our country cannot sustain that and be a great country unless somebody addresses that problem. Our jobs have gone to China, and we've got a moral problem caused by dependency, which is encouraged by the federal government. Now, we know what we got in 1976. I'm going to come back to that primary in a second. That primary was a primary between Ronald Reagan and Gerald Ford. But in any event, for the last year, all of us have wondered, or at least I was wondering, we got 300 million people in this country. Where's the next Ronald Reagan? I mean, wouldn't you think with 300 million people you'd find another Ronald Reagan? Well, I'll tell you, folks, we got the next Ronald Reagan. But last time Ronald Reagan appeared in 1976, there were some people who said we shouldn't vote for Ronald Reagan. Remember that? There were people who said, oh, he's too conservative. He says some people are milking welfare. He thinks government's too big. He gave a speech in which he mentioned God. We can't have Ronald Reagan be our nominee, right? But I'll tell you, Ronald Reagan was the right guy in 1976. Eventually, it took him 4 more years to become the greatest president of the 20th century. Because he spoke to the American people. Now, I'll tell you, I know a lot of political people, and in January, when I asked people who would be the best of the declared candidates to be president, almost everybody I knew in Madison said the same thing. Rick Santorum, but he's stuck at 1% in the polls, they said. Rick Santorum, man, I wish we'd have Rick Santorum, but he's stuck at 1% in the polls. Well, now, I give you the man who won in Louisiana last Saturday night, 22% over his nearest competitor, the next president of the United States, Senator Rick Santorum.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. It's great to be here. It's great to be in the home of one great Wisconsinite who is making a huge difference for our country, and that's your own Paul Ryan. So I just want to say thank you for... He has been a great leader out of the state of Wisconsin on the national level, and you've got who's really making huge changes, really shifting the entire dynamic in this budget process, and really giving us an opportunity, not just to make the case on the budget, but to make the kind of case politically for us to go forward and not just win this election, but based upon his blueprint, win this election and fundamentally change Washington, D.C. back to limited government. So thank you, Janesville. Thank you and Wisconsin for Paul Ryan. And by the way, not only you're leading on the federal level here in Wisconsin, but the courage of one man and his lieutenant governor, one woman, who stepped up, did what was necessary, took the flak, stood tall, led this country on the fundamental changes that are necessary to get limited government at the state and local level. And here's a hats off to your great governor and lieutenant governor, Walker and Clayfish. My daughter who's with us is my oldest, our daughter Elizabeth, who is traveling with me today, and give Elizabeth a little. You go over and sit down, honey. I don't make Elizabeth stand behind me and look adoringly at me for the entire speech. She can sit and look adoringly at me for the entire speech. We've been traveling throughout the day here, having another wonderful day in a great state. I mean, I got to tell you, Glenn, I want to thank very much for his endorsement and support. He was in Hartford today. We were in the mine shaft and in Hartford, yep. And we had our share of cheese curds and a whole bunch of other things there. And we were having fun. And I got to tell you, I want to thank him for his endorsement today. And I want to thank all the other folks who spoke with us, the state representatives, Ambassador Shakespeare, others who have come out here to show the flag for us. I'm very, very appreciative of that. And we've just had a wonderful time. Glenn mentioned Louisiana,
And I got to tell you, if you haven't been to Louisiana, it is a unique place in the country. It's just so different. It's such a unique culture and such a wonderful culture with the Cajun and the French influence and you know, the whole nature of the state just being very different than the rest of America. But yet, just the wonderful spirit of the people down there was just amazing. And I come to Wisconsin, very different culture, you know, brats and beer and cheese curds and you know, and I mean, I went up to Lambeau Field and threw some passes on Lambeau Field and tried the Lambeau Leap. Actually, I was going to try the Lambeau Leap, but that wall's hard. I don't know about what you knew this or not, and it's a lot higher than you think it is. These guys are real athletes. I am not. And so, but it's been you know, we went bowling in Sheboygan. We just have had a wonderful time. And the same, you know, it's two different, completely in many respects, different cultures, but the same spirit. I mean, I can't tell you the number of people just in both states who said, you know, with sincerity and with a real great, you know, small town feeling of thank you for coming to our town. You know, thank you for being here. Thank you for thinking about us and listening to us, caring about what we think, caring about, you know, the values that we want to stand up for. And when I talk to crowds here in Wisconsin and deliver the message that I do, when I talk about, you know, the greatness of the American people and talk about the important values that found our country and why freedom, ultimately, of all the issues that are involved in this election, ultimately the biggest issue, the one that is really threatened and that is really the cause of all the other problems that we're facing in our nation, which is that the lights of freedom very well may go out if we do not win this election here in this race in 2012. The same reaction. Two very different groups of people, but the same reaction. It's what reminds me, is how diverse America is, how wonderfully diverse it is. Yet, there are things that bring us together. There are things that bind us. Because American is not an ethnicity. It's not a race. We're all hyphenated Americans, right? We all have we are diverse, we have different cultures from which we come from. Even within our own states and our own communities, different accents and the way we say things and do things, but there is something that makes us an American. It's not what we look like or what we talk like, but it is the basic foundational principles of our country. America is about an ideal, and that ideal, in my opinion, rests in our founding documents. And for a long time, we've heard this talk about American exceptionalism. The reason it came back is President Obama, early in his career, was asked as president whether he believed in American exceptionalism, and his answer was, well, I believe in American exceptionalism like the British believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism. Basically, what he was saying is, we're all homers, we like the home team. You see, that's someone who doesn't understand America. A year ago, your fine congressman put together that budget that talked about doing the things he suggested this time too, which is to take entitlement programs, all of these means-tested entitlement programs that under the 10th Amendment should be run and managed by the states, not by the federal government. He said, let's get these programs out of Washington, D.C. Let's end these federal entitlements like I did when I was in the United States Senate and helped author the bill and manage the welfare reform bill on the floor of the Senate that ended aid to families with dependent children. We want to do the same thing now with food stamps and Medicaid. We list a whole bunch of these programs. Well, when President Obama gave his response to the Ryan budget, with Paul Ryan sitting right there, he excoriated him and the budget. Rather bad form as far as I was concerned. Not something that a president of the United States should do, in my opinion. But he did it. And he did it with this phrase, one particular phrase that, well, as you can imagine, sticks in my craw. because I've remembered it to this day. He said this, listing all of the entitlement programs that Paul Ryan wanted to change. And he said this, America is a better country because of these commitments. I will go one step further, he read. America was not a great country until these commitments. That's how President Obama sees America. A country that is not exceptional, a country that was not great until the government took money from some, decided who better deserved that money, and then redistributed it to those that would now become dependent upon the government and vote for those who continue to provide them those resources. That, in the eyes of President Obama, is what makes America great. But of course, that's not what you believe makes America great. It's not what your ancestors believed made America great. It's not what millions of people around the world who came to this country or want to come to this country believe what makes America great. It's not why my grandfather, who came here in 1925, it's not why he thought he needed to leave Mussolini's Italy, fascist Italy, where the government would dictate his life and his values. No, he came to America in 1925, left a good job in a beautiful little idyllic mountain town, and came to America. Why? Because of all the government benefits that Barack Obama said made America great? Those benefits did not exist in 1925. There were no government benefits, save one, freedom. And that was enough. Winston Churchill gave another wise Churchill quote. He said, the debate is not about the future. The debate is about the past. If you think about it, it's really true. The way Barack Obama sees America as a broken country that was unfair, unjust, discriminatory, and still is in large part today, as he gives speeches about the 99 versus the 1 and income inequality and the ability and desire to redistribute wealth. As you hear him talk about any opportunity to divide America along either class or race or ethnicity, whatever it is, he takes the opportunity to separate us, to remind us of our differences, because that's how he sees America. Not as e pluribus unum, not as out of many one, but a country that is broken, that needs to be unified by a powerful government that makes everybody get the same, because then it's fair. That is Barack Obama's vision for America. It is why he proposes the bills he proposes. It is why he whispered off camera, he thought, saying, just give me a little space. We'll take care of this after the election. We know the candidate Barack Obama, what he was like. The anti-war government, America was a source for division around the world. That what we were doing was wrong, and we needed to pull out, and we needed to pull back. He's done as much as he could with the prospects of having to get reelected. He cut the defense budget by $500 billion, proposed another $500 billion. You know the defense budget? That thing that's causing the budget deficit to explode, the defense budget? Just a little history on the defense budget. When I was born, the defense budget was 60% of the federal budget. It is not 60% anymore. It's not 50. It's not 40. It's not 30. It's not 20. It's 17% of the budget. And according to Barack Obama, that's the problem. whereas the part of the budget that was less than 10% when I was born is now 60%. Entitlements. His solution, add another. Add the biggest one of all, $2 trillion over the next 10 years. How can we afford to do that? We can't unless that defense budget goes down and down and down. So you just wait. Tell your friend Vladimir, we'll be drawing back. We'll be cutting this stuff. We're not going to do any of this. We're going to focus on building the welfare state. We're going to focus on creating government dependency for every single American. And you won't have to worry at all about us because we're not going to be involved. Because we're going to have to do what every other great power that decided to become a social welfare state has done, which is to abandon America's mission of being that beacon of hope, that country, that freedom-loving people, courageous people who fought despotism like our founders did. And then we always, as Americans, we always ally ourselves. We always feel a kinship with men and women around this world who stand up for liberty, human rights, for the values of our country. In one way or another, we want to help them. We want to at least provide the moral clarity that they can rely upon, that someone will step forward and say, evil is evil. Someone will stand by their side. Lech Walesa came to Chicago a little over a year ago, and he uttered words similar to what I uttered. And he concluded by saying something to the order of, that America no longer exists. And the world is a darker place. Ladies and gentlemen, this race is about who we are and what you're going to give her and him and her and that little baby. What kind of country? You, all of us, we, what are we going to do? What are we going to do now that freedom is being put to the test? Ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be an easy election. We are going up a president that will have enormous resources. And of course, he will have the mainstream media in his back pocket, trying to deflect criticism away from him and his speeches off camera, trying to apologize for him and make excuses for him and slough off every faux pas that is made by him and his vice president, which is a full-time job in the case of the vice president. And then pick at every conservative participle, every conservative pronoun in every sentence that they say. That's what they do. That's their job. It's to deflect attention away from the fundamental issues in this race. And that is who we are and what we will be. Karen and I have been married 21 years. We have 7 children. Ages 20. Ages 20 to 3, this is not the best time for me to be running for president. I've been on the road since the 1st of June, every day but 5. Every day. Because, like many of you, no. Like many of you, those of you who stood up and stood tall in 2010 and elected a great governor and great members of the legislature here. It just wasn't acceptable to me to sit on the sidelines and let what my grandfather and my dad and mom fought for, struggled for, suffered for, to give me that torch of freedom I was going to do all I could. And I looked at this race and I said, the reason I'm getting into it, the reason my wife agreed. And by the way, when I first asked her, I said, I think feel like I'm being called that I should do this. And Karen looked at me and said, God cannot possibly want you to do this. And I said, well, honey, we have to pray about it. She goes, you pray about it. God cannot possibly want us to do this. Well, after a while, she agreed to pray about it, and after a while, she saw the same thing I did. We looked at this race and looked at this field and said, they're good people. They really are. They're good people who want to serve and want to make a difference. But the leading candidate in this race 6 months ago or 8 months ago when I decided to do this was just not the right candidate for the right time on the most important issue of the day. Whatever happens after this election, the one thing that must happen is we must have a clear and convincing mandate to repeal Obamacare, because that is the game changer. If Obamacare is not repealed, and it will not be easy to repeal, if Obamacare is not repealed, then the government will go from a position where about 40 to 45% of Americans are in some small way or large way dependent upon the federal government for their well-being, some government benefit, to 100% of Americans being dependent upon the government for something fairly critical, your health and your life. And just as importantly, that of everyone you love. Once that happens, the government got you. You are now dependent upon them. They now can tell you what to do, how to do it, as we have seen already, and it hasn't even gone into effect yet. They say they're giving you a right. What they're giving you is a hook. I was in the green room at Fox. In the green room at Fox 2 days before they passed Obamacare. And I ran into Juan Williams. And I said to Juan, you guys are committing suicide. You're going to get creamed in the 2010 elections. And this is what he said to me. Well, let me tell you what the White House just told me. Quote, we believe Americans love entitlements. And once we get them hooked on this entitlement, they will never let it go. That's how they see you. As people to get hooked, people to have on a string that they can pull whenever they want you to do what they tell you to do. That's why this election is about big things. Yeah, it's about unemployment. Obamacare goes into effect, we'll have a lot more unemployment. Obamacare goes into effect, we'll have a huge government, $2 trillion more over the next 10 years. Obamacare goes into effect, we'll have a much slower growing economy. Obamacare goes into effect, we'll have much higher deficits. Obamacare goes into effect, we will have less economic freedom. We will have a weaker national defense because we can't afford it. We will have higher taxes. All of those things are guaranteed. But ultimately, the great tragedy is that we will fulfill, sadly, the great fear that Ronald Reagan talked about when he said that he concerned it one day that he would have to tell his children or his children's children the story about what it was like to live in an America where once men were free. Nobody in this room wants to tell that story. That's why we have to elect somebody who is the best person to put Obamacare on trial, not in the Supreme Court, but in the court of public opinion in America. And who is the best person in this race to do this? Well, let's look at the two candidates that are vying for your vote here in Wisconsin, which, by the way, is shaping up to be one very critical race right here. You folks are in the epicenter of politics and have been for the past 18 months. As you know, it's nonstop here. Well, now the world and the United States is going to be watching you even closer as to what you Republicans do next Tuesday. And let's look at the choices you have and what Wisconsin will do to defend freedom. Will you nominate somebody out of Wisconsin who for 20 years ago, when I was a freshman House member, joined with another courageous governor who followed Scott Walker's lead, John Kasich in Ohio, who stepped up with me when he was on the Budget Committee, interestingly enough, and we proposed an alternative to Clinton Care, or what Bill Clinton was campaigning on at the time, which was universal health care. And it was something called health savings accounts, which was a private sector reform of the health care markets, believing in free people, believing in you controlling your health care dollars and expenditures, you involving 300 million consumers, all of us being consumers of health care, consuming it based upon our desires, our wants, our needs, not limited by what the insurance companies, the employer, or the government believes is best for you. That's been my mantra. I've supported throughout the years free market, private sector health care, equality and tax treatment between employer-provided coverage and those who don't. And by the way, if you don't have employer-provided coverage, you get no tax assistance from the federal government to buy health insurance. For 15 years, I've been advocating for a change in that system. I've got a long, strong, consistent track record on the issue of health care. No wobbles, no bobbles, believing in free people. Now let's look at the other person, Governor Romney. Governor Romney, when he was governor of Massachusetts, worked with Ted Kennedy and the Democrats from Massachusetts to design a system where the government would mandate every individual in the state of Massachusetts to buy health care. Put a fine on them if they didn't, fine their employers if they didn't. Any employer over 10 employees had to do this. They told the insurance plans what plans they had to offer, what the benefits would be. They set up insurance exchanges, government run, where people would buy their insurance from. They exploded the Medicaid budget. So you, in fact, here in Wisconsin are paying for health care in Massachusetts. Yes, you are. You are paying for Romney Care. Governor Romney says, well, mine was different than Obamacare. I didn't cut Medicare. Do you know why Governor Romney didn't cut Medicare? Because Medicare is a federal program and he can't cut Medicare. But what he did was steal money from Medicaid, money that was going disproportionately to Massachusetts unjustly. Ladies and gentlemen, he put forth the single biggest government takeover of health care in our country's history and is proud of it to this day. Said it was right for Massachusetts. It was right for the people in that state, for the government to force you to buy insurance. He was asked that question in the 2008 debates, and he said, mandates are good. I love mandates. And then in 2009, after running for president, saying he was a conservative, when Obamacare was being debated, he wrote op-eds, went on television, and advocated for Obama to follow Massachusetts' lead and do what he did, specifically to tax people if they don't buy insurance, a mandate, specifically to make employers pay if they don't provide insurance. Basically do what Obamacare did, and you've heard President Obama say he has provided the blueprint. Now let me ask you, Why in the world, on the most important issue of the day, of have huge impact on our economy, our deficit, the size of government, and your freedom, both economic freedom and religious freedom, and by the way, Romney Care forced Catholic hospitals to provide the morning after pill, which is an abortifacient, and provides $50 abortions, subsidized abortions, and for low-income, zero-cost abortions. Why would the good people of Wisconsin, who I would think want to win this race and want Obamacare and what it will do to this country in so many facets of your life that you talk about every day here in America, why would we nominate someone who is uniquely disqualified to make the argument? If you want a proof and point on it, yesterday began the debates in the Supreme Court, the arguments at the Supreme Court about Obamacare. I stood at the base of the steps of the Supreme Court and laid out why we needed to nominate somebody who would make Obamacare the front and center issue, because if it is a front and center issue, and I win this election, it will be clear that there is a mandate to repeal Obamacare. Governor Romney was 3,000 miles away, issued a statement, and didn't even call on for repeal of Obamacare. And I can show you interview after interview where he talks about the good things that are in Obamacare that we would want to keep. Oh, now he says, oh, I'm for repealing Obamacare. Why? It's because he knows that's what you want to hear. And we know about Governor Romney and his Etch-a-Sketch about resetting the button and saying what needs to be said, and depending on the audience he's saying in front of. If you want a more current example of Governor Romney's Etch-a-Sketch policies, let me share with you something I suspect most of you have not heard, because the media has not deemed it important. The media that seems to be rallying behind Governor Romney say, oh, it's time to end this. They haven't deemed it important to even discuss this issue. They'd rather focus in on my personal pronouns that I use in my sentences, or my conversations off camera that weren't off camera with certain reporters from the New York Times. When in Wisconsin, let them have it, right? That's what you guys are all about. Let them have it. Well, let them have the truth. Well, here's the truth. About 2 weeks ago, I went down to Puerto Rico. There was a primary in Puerto Rico after Alabama and Mississippi. The biggest issue among Republicans in Puerto Rico is statehood. Every single Republican is a statehooder. They want statehood. And they want it now. I respect that. They asked me if I was for statehood. I said, if the people of Puerto Rico give a strong vote for statehood, I will work with you to get through that process. And they said, well, is the fact that only 15% of Puerto Ricans speak English a problem? I said, yes. I said that I have campaigned in this election that English should be the official language of this country, that and I say that as the son of an Italian-American immigrant who did not speak a word of English when he came to this country. But, as he told me repeatedly, thank God they made him speak English. It is the language that led him to be successful, and for his son to be, well, standing before you today. It is the language of success in America, and why would we deny that to anybody who's a United States citizen? So I said what was consistent with what I say in the mainland, in the 50 states, that yes, every state should speak English as the official language. That doesn't mean there doesn't people here in Wisconsin or other places speak other languages. That's fine. In fact, I encourage it. It's good to be bilingual, trilingual. That's okay. But we all need to have a common language. Well, I threw a big stink bomb into the debate in Puerto Rico. I was lambasted all over the place. How dare he say that we have to teach English in our schools and that we couldn't be admitted unless we have English as a pervasive language known in this island. Well, so the firestorm is brewing, and guess who comes into Puerto Rico? The man whose position it is that English should be the official language of this country, and that he's against bilingual education even. When he was governor of Massachusetts, English should only be taught as a primary language, he said. And so he was asked the same question. His answer, oh, I wouldn't require Puerto Ricans to speak English as a condition for statehood. 20 delegates later, he got his 20 delegates. He said what he had to say in Puerto Rico. And thanks to the mainstream media, none of you know this. None of you know this. This is a huge issue in this campaign. Who do you trust? When someone stands up and asks for your vote, Governor Romney, when the Etch-a-Sketch comment came out, said that he would run as a conservative in the fall. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to run as a conservative in the fall. I am a conservative, period. I need your help. If you want someone who's going to make Obamacare issue number one, if you want someone who's going to make gas prices issue number two, energy policy, something, again, it's talked about at every kitchen table. It's affecting people's lives and the cost of living beyond energy, as we know from our grocery stores. If you want someone who's going to make that an issue, not someone who can't make it an issue, because he, like President Obama, believes in man-made global warming. He, like President Obama, in the past has said, no, we don't need to be drilling for more oil. That we have to live with high gasoline prices. That it's good for the environment. Who put in the first CO2 cap as governor of Massachusetts on coal-fired power plants, and who proposed and supported cap and trade at a regional level. Someone who Barack Obama, just like on Obamacare, will be able to turn around and say, wait a minute, you're criticizing my energy policy? Let's look at your energy policy. You see, on all the big issues of the day, the issues of government control of our lives, Obamacare, cap and trade, Wall Street bailouts, no. Romney, yes. And his principal economic platform is not cutting the capital gains tax or lowering the top rate, but providing incentives by zeroing out the corporate tax to bring manufacturing jobs back to this country so blue-collar workers can get jobs and rise in society. Someone who understands the burden of our tax code wants to rip it out, replace it with 5 deductions, not, as Governor Romney did, 68 different changes. It's not tax reform. It's Chinese water torture. Folks, we have a clear choice if you decide to give us one in the fall. Over the last 100 years, there's only been one Republican ever to defeat a Democratic president for re-election. One. And we've had plenty of opportunities. Once it happened. And it was a year in which all of the pundits, all of the experts said, we need a moderate. We just so badly have to get rid of this president. He's so bad. We'll take whoever it is, but we have to appeal to moderates and independents. We can't elect this hardcore conservative. America's a different country now. We just went through the 60s and the 70s. Some old, ancient, from a bygone era movie actor who talks about crazy things like American exceptionalism and freedom, it doesn't relate to the American people. We need someone more modern, someone who appeals to moderates. That's how we're going to win. In 100 years, only one has ever won. It's not because they appealed to moderates. It's because they appealed to the very soul of every single American about who we are and what we should stand for and what America is going to look like in the future, being free, safe, prosperous, and strong. That's why we won. You have a chance here in Wisconsin to set this race on its ear. You've proven with your governor, your congressman, that you're not afraid to step up and do what many conservatives shy away from doing. A lot of Tea Partiers, a lot of conservatives, tough talk tough. They go out and castigate members of Congress and elected officials for compromising on their principles, for not doing what they say they're going to do, for trying just to get a deal done, trying to pass a piece of legislation, and therefore sacrificing and walking away from your principles in order to win. So now I'm turning it on you, you conservatives and Tea Party folks. Are you going to walk away from your principles, compromise, just to win? And as you've said about these politicians, what have we won? Do not lose faith, just like you didn't in the last election here in Wisconsin. Don't lose faith that what you believe in, what you know to be true and right for this country, don't lose faith in the fact that not only is it right for the country, it is a winning message in this country. Why? Because it is right for this country. And so I ask each and every one of you to walk out of this room and commit first to vote for me. But if that's all you do, I'm not going to win. Because Governor Romney and his billionaire friends are spending about $4 billion. Million. Feels like billion. $4 million. Anybody get any robocalls? Nasty mail? Negative television commercials? Radio ads? Lots of them. That's the message. That's the message Governor Romney has for Wisconsin. Just use this overwhelming money advantage from a handful of billionaires to pulverize an opponent by offering no vision, no hope, no contrast with President Obama. Well, I have a secret weapon that, as of last Saturday, has won us 11 states in this country. And I'm looking at that secret weapon right now. If you walk out of here with a commitment to each of you get me 10 votes, 20 votes, you got a week. You got a week. Our founders pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to do what? To give you a shot at freedom. To give you, those of who they knew not of, wouldn't have been able to dream of an America today. But America today is what it is because they were willing to risk it all, and I'm not asking you that. I'm asking for a week. I'm asking for a few minutes, a few hours out of every day to strike a blow for freedom. Many generations of Americans can live their lives every day ordinarily, and freedom will be secure and handed off. And there are a few generations who have to make great sacrifices, enormous sacrifices. We refer to them as the greatest generation usually, not because they were any better than you, It's because when freedom was on the line, they did what was necessary. They made the sacrifice. Now, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to do? If you believe what I and we have talked about here tonight, if you believe it's as serious as I believe it is, and hopefully you do too, what are you willing to do? Go on our website. Sign up. There's a call from home program. You can plug in a headset. And you can make calls off your computer to people here in Wisconsin and ask them to help us. There are people all over the country doing that right now. But it would be nice to have people who sound like they're from Wisconsin calling people from Wisconsin. Make those phone calls. We're going to get down and we're going to say hello. Anybody wants a picture? Anybody wants to say hi? We'll take a picture, put it on Facebook. Send out tweets, send out emails. Go to your church, supermarket, clubs, bars. Make a difference. I'm out here 24/7. I'm asking for 7 days. If you do that, if we're able to pull off a huge win, and I'll take 34 votes just like I got in Iowa. 34 is fine with me. A win is a win. And you've seen from some of these races between Governor Romney and me, they are hair by hair, less than 1%, couple dozen votes. Every single thing you do matters. If we nominate a conservative that can make Obamacare front and center issue, we can win this election. We can repeal Obamacare. We can follow Paul Ryan's blueprint. We can get this economy going again. We will have someone who will stand up for the integrity and dignity of human life and for the centrality of the American family. Someone who will stand up to the two-bit dictators and the radical Islamists and make sure that they know that America is to be respected, and if they don't respect us, they're going to learn to fear us. If you can help me, we can win Wisconsin. We can win this nomination, and if we win this nomination, we will not only win this general election and defeat Barack Obama, but most importantly, we will be able to stake claim to renew America. So you will not be that generation that has to tell your children and grandchildren about when America was free. But you will be that generation that struck a blow for freedom and kept our country great. Thank you very much. God bless you. God bless America. Fight for me. On Wisconsin. Let's go. Come on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Game on, he's got the plan to lower taxes